And hello again from WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. Happy Friday. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Editor for Assignment here at the Western Journal. Joining me today on my left, Joey Chester. He is an assignment editor with the Western Journal. And on my right, WJ contributor Cameron Arcand. I don't have a funny intro for you this week, Cameron.
Darn, I look forward to that.
Well, I lost track of time. You didn't see this, but when the intro was rolling, Cameron was gently over here trying to get my attention because I was looking down at my papers, and I totally would have missed my cue. Anyway, thank you for sticking with us through the week. It's been an interesting week news-wise, where the president has really he's been trying to hide out. Pelosi's been defeated a couple of times, which has been nice. We are tracking some interesting stories. Got two very interesting stories, and then one really neat, actually uplifting story to end the week on. We're going to start out with Joey dealing with a leftist Democrat double standard, specifically as it applies to Joe Biden. Imagine that. Then Cameron's going to be talking with us about migration in the country. Turns out people are leaving blue states for the freedom in red states. And that's not just individuals. We're talking about businesses at this point, too. A big one just left New England. And then I'm going to be sharing with you the story of a woman in New York City who has struck up a very a heartwarming and profound relationship, not with one police officer or with two, but actually with thousands. But first, on this Friday afternoon, Joey, take it away.
I just have one question. Is anything real anymore? Anything?
No.
Nothing feels real anymore.
Since Rush died, The answer is no. He used to say, I'm the mayor of Reelsville. When he died, Reelsville died too, and we're all just stuck in... I don't know what this is.
Oh, I mean, honestly,
nightmarish dystopian hellscape.
That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel real. I mean, so many things that happen every week. You're like, oh, it can't get any worse, and then it does. It doesn't feel real anymore. Well, one thing that happened this week is Joe Biden got his booster shot. He's an older American. Older Americans are recommended to get a booster shot for the COVID vaccine. And I watched it live. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought Joe Biden was sitting, getting his booster shot. You know, it's a nice publicity stunt for Joe Biden. But then some eagle-eyed people on Twitter went and looked at the images of Joe Biden getting his booster shot and noticed something a little strange. Can you put up the pictures of Joe Biden getting his booster shot? What is that?
Why, Joey, that looks like a set.
It's completely fake. It's fake. I mean, there are how many rooms in the White House? Joe Biden has a nice presidential-looking Oval Office that he could have had a booster shot in there, you know, a nice backdrop for pictures. No, it's a literal stage. It is actual political theater. It's not even like this, thought of political theater. It is actual.
Not metaphorical.
No, it's not metaphorical.
Real
it is real political theater. It's like an actual theater.
The windows aren't real. There's no light coming in.
No, they're playing. I mean, for all we know, Joe Biden wasn't really getting a booster shot. I mean, for an administration who wants to mandate the vaccine and try to get so much confidence behind the vaccine, a picture of a fake set, or I guess it is a real set, but the whole thing is theater. I mean, how does that inspire confidence, or for anyone who is skeptical of the vaccine to believe that the vaccine is real and works? It's very strange to me.
Nothing wins my confidence like massive deception.
Yeah. I mean,
being disseminated by the media.
Why do you guys think that Joe Biden did this? I mean, like genuinely, what is the reasoning behind this? I can't think of any positive reason to do this.
I'm trying to draw from any sort of campaign or any sort of experience that I've had with kind of dealing with politicians, and everything is staged when you kind of do things on the campaign side. So it doesn't really, I mean, the fact that they have a literal set does shock me a little bit, but the fact that they do stage something this in depth is a little bit concerning, and it's definitely very short-sighted. And I've said it several times on this show too that it's very difficult for the Biden administration to make it through to people because they're talking to a group of people that has already been persuaded by them, pretty much. So I don't really think anyone saw this, except maybe some older Americans seeing him get the booster shot, some of the older liberal ones. Seeing that might have encouraged them to go ahead and do that. But for the vast majority of the country, I don't think anyone saw this and was like, you know what? I'm going to go get my vaccine now. Like,
Right.
I don't think that's not what happened here. And the lack of authenticity from liberal administrations in general has really swayed a lot of people in the conservative direction. And I feel like if we keep seeing this, that's what's going to keep happening.
I love the level of self-deception here, that they think that this will deceive people.
Yes.
I wish I could remember the name of the book. There's a great book written by a Secret Service agent, and he did a number of interviews with other Secret Service agents from past presidencies and kind of got all the gossip together on all of the presidents within recent memory. And one of the stories is that, Jimmy Carter was famous for always carrying his bags. He was a man of the people. And so he would carry his bags up and down Air Force One and all of this. Well, turns out, according to the book, the bags are always empty. There's nothing in them.
Not surprising.
Yeah, the
Carter.
White House plebs had already loaded everything for him. They were just empty and props.
Oh, my God.
And this was just kind of an empty prop sort of thing. And as you said, I mean, honestly, did he get the? I mean, who knows if he got the shot?
Maybe it's the flu
or
shot.
not.
Yeah.
But it seems to me it's kind of an empty prop like situation for a president who's kind of an empty prop for the left. There's really nothing there. We talked about that for so long going into 2020 that Joe Biden was just a vessel. I think it was Victor Davis Hanson who kept referring to him as just an empty vessel that the left would pour itself into, and then he would kind of carry their message forward. The only thing I can figure is that they wanted lots of pictures of this because the vaccine is the most important thing in the world to the left. They wanted lots of pictures of it. There were no rooms in the White House where they felt like they could set this up. So they set up this I mean, and what else do they use that for? I wonder.
Yeah, it's just an empty room.
Maybe Joe Biden has
the
a
set
cooking show
itself, or
soon.
little minis.
Yeah.
It looks like for a cooking show.
Yeah, exactly.
Cooking with Joe.
Did they build it just for this?
Yeah,
Is it sitting
I
in
just
some
wonder.
storage closet and they pull it out for?
Maybe
for
it's
this?
like a high school theater department. And they had like people staffers painting it beforehand.
Oh yeah.
It really convinced me when I saw. I thought that was outside the White House. I thought the
Yeah, well, it
windows
looks
were
like it.
real
It looks
when I saw
like it.
pictures. Hey, I just think political theater inspires no confidence for anything. I no confidence in the administration.
Not just none. It's the absence of confidence. It's distrust.
Yeah, right.
If they won't show me the whole thing, if when the camera zooms out,
Yeah.
it turns out I'm seeing something radically different from what I thought.
Yes.
Why in the world should I trust anything else that you say?
And notice something else about this picture. Everyone is wearing masks. Everyone. Biden's wearing masks. The nurse or the doctor administering the vaccines wearing masks. Everyone in the press is wearing masks. Well, I believe it was that night, or maybe it was the next day, Joe Biden attended an event. It was the Congressional Baseball Game, which happens every year.
Lots of
Democrats versus
pictures.
Republicans. Republicans won. Well, notice the difference between that scene we just saw and what happened at the Congressional Baseball Game. So here Joe Biden comes in. He kisses Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi gets some nice germs from Biden. He's shaking hands with everyone.
A little while ago at the White House as they try to figure out some things off of the field related to infrastructure and a whole ton of issues now facing the congressional Democrats and the president. The president going around and shaking hands.
President Biden right now shaking hands with the Democratic players.
So notice something about that. Biden walks in. Not a single person has a mask on. He does not have a mask on. He spreads his germs to Nancy Pelosi through a lovely kiss. And then he shakes hands with all these people, all these Democrat Congress people who have touted masks and social distancing and COVID precautions and the COVID vaccine. None of them have masks on. No one is obeying any of the rules that Democrats, the left, Fauci are always talking about, which when you compare this to Biden in the actual theater, it shows that like COVID precautions to the left just seem like political theater. Again, this inspires absolutely no trust. How would you expect Americans to follow COVID guidelines when you can't even adhere to them? So why the difference here? What do you guys think?
They think you're stupid.
Yeah.
They honestly think you're stupid because there's people who are if they made like a clear distinction, if the administration came out and said, hey, we still want you to wear masks indoors, but outdoors,
right,
free to go, do whatever. But the fact that we have so much mixed messaging what has created this problem where it was like, remember if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. Remember that?
Yes.
And it was this huge thing.
Yes.
And then it's like, no one's gonna buy that. And then of course a few months later they're like, okay, we actually need you guys to wear masks. So it's like they keep going back on their word. It's incredibly inconsistent. And the thing is, we shouldn't want people to be wearing masks at the Congressional Baseball Game because it's like, let's be honest, like college football has been like insane. Like if you look at any photos of student sections, like I'm going to be real, like COVID is probably the least of the hazards in those student sections with certain things. If you watch any ESPN game or anything recently, like there's just the culture for a lot of younger Americans is moving on from this, but I feel like for maybe a lot of more progressive younger Americans and maybe a lot of older Americans still, and maybe more reasonably so, there's still a lot of fear, and this political theater is basically just using the American people as pawns right now, and because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, there's also a piece of hypocrisy, and all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. With, I keep going back to the pictures of the people in the park with the white circles drawn around them. You guys remember those?
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, you could stake out your little piece of the park that was 6 feet in diameter, and that was it. You compare the people doing that to the scenes and those where they're just with those clips where they're just packed in on top of each other. It's rules for thee, but not for me.
And I think that goes back to the beginning of the pandemic. We saw all of these liberal politicians showing COVID hypocrisy. I mean, you guys remember Gavin Newsom when he got caught going to, was it French Laundry?
Laundry.
And that was a big thing. And we see pictures all the time of Democrat politicians partying and going to restaurants. Yeah.
Pelosi.
London Breed. I was feeling the spirit.
All of these people, this is no different. Like they are elites. And they think the rules don't apply to them. They just think that you, the peasants, have to obey the rules. It's a big problem. There's one more picture I want to share of Joe Biden from this game.
This is my favorite one.
It's my favorite picture, too. Here's Joe Biden pinning a woman up to the fence. I'm sure spreading his germs to her. So apparently this picture does not violate any sort of COVID guidelines for the left.
Want a vaccine?
Yes. I can only imagine what he could be possibly telling her. But yeah, this is the state of Joe Biden's America. This is what things are like right now.
Imagine if Donald Trump had a woman pinned against
my.
a fence like
that would be the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
For weeks it would be Trump is a predator.
And that was that was the accusation. But put the picture back up there, guys. That was the accusation against Biden from gosh, what's her name? I can't remember. But the idea was that he actually kind of had her sort of pushed up against the wall like that, and then assaulted her. That was the allegation. So maybe it's a familiar position for him. Who knows?
Who knows?
All right. So the American people are waking up to what's going on. The hypocrisy that we saw there is well known as far as the American people go. And they are responding. We are seeing people leaving blue states and heading for red state territory like crazy. But it's not just limited to individuals. And the big case of this has been announced recently. Cameron, what do you have?
Yeah, so major gun manufacturer Smith & Wesson announced that they are leaving their headquarters in Springfield, Massachusetts, in Western Mass, They've had this headquarters for over 170 years in this one location, and they announced that because of proposed regulations in the state of Massachusetts, that they are moving their headquarters and 550 jobs out of Massachusetts into Maryville, Tennessee. It's a suburb of Knoxville. Because they're saying even though that these regulations have not been passed yet, there is still concern that this is not a safe environment for their business to thrive. So they're essentially consolidating their operations. They're moving it from a couple other states too and bringing it to Tennessee because they view it as one of the few places that they can safely and freely operate their business right now. And they put out a statement saying these bills would prevent Smith & Wesson from manufacturing firearms that are legal in almost every state in America and are safely used by tens of millions of law-abiding citizens every day, exercising their constitutional Second Amendment rights and protecting themselves and their families. Now, they're very devastated by this decision. There's a lot of history with Smith & Wesson in Springfield, Massachusetts. So this is a very big deal, and they're going to be offering employees relocation services if they want it. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, hey, I can't leave where I live. I might have family here. So they're probably going to be out of a job now. And my question to you guys is, we're already seeing companies go to red states. You saw Tesla moving its operations from California to Texas. How do you guys think this is going to shape the American economy in future years?
I think one of the, I know the pandemic has been devastating for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, but I think one of the greatest things that has happened from the pandemic is how it's exposed how blue states do not have heartland America's best interests in mind. Blue states are against our best interests, and a lot of businesses have recognized that. So I think we're going to see this trend continue where blue states just wreak havoc against businesses, and those businesses are going to flee. It's interesting. I took a vacation to Florida back in February, and I actually ate at a restaurant that moved from New York City to Florida during the pandemic because they couldn't open. So they said, well, we can't afford to stay closed down for a year. So we're going to move. And they opened up shop and they were thriving and they didn't have to have any restrictions on capacity. Business taxes are lower. There's no personal income tax in the state. Red states are thriving. And that's what we see in all the unemployment data. Red states are thriving right now. We have the lowest unemployment rates. Arizona, it's doing great. I just saw a new electric car company opened its factory down in south of Phoenix. It's great. Red states are thriving. Blue states are continue to lose jobs. I mean, New York is talking about increasing taxes.
Hemorrhaging.
People are fleeing. They're going to Florida. They're going to Tennessee, Arizona, Texas. This is going to continue, and I think it's great. I think people need to see how bad Democrat leaders are, and this will show them.
Yeah, I agree with everything Joey said there. It is great what's happening. The problem, as we have discussed, as we Arizonans have discussed, as that happens, turns out Californians also chase those jobs and those businesses, so they immigrate.
Except for Cameron.
Except for,
I
know. But they, essentially what happens is you have the people who elected the idiotic legislatures and governors that created these horrible situations in blue states. They then move to the red states that are thriving, and then they begin turning them blue.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's a huge problem, and I'm trying to think of how you fix this, and the only thing I can come up with is not workable. You should have essentially a moratorium on the right to vote for people who are new in the state. You should have to live in the state for 15 years before you can vote. If you do something like that, you might be able to preserve that culture, or at least have it change more slowly.
See, California's one step ahead on the tax front because they're saying, I believe they can tax your assets I think it's up to 10 years after you leave the state.
Well, it's evil.
Yeah.
It's evil. Well, and then
I still have to pay taxes in that state this year. I'm not looking forward to it.
I haven't confirmed it. I saw something the other day saying that Biden was moving toward taxing unrealized gains.
Yeah, that's their plan.
That's horrifying. So look,
your house.
If you've got a house that appreciated this past year but you didn't sell it. Sorry, you're still going to pay taxes on the appreciated income.
$20,000
That's
tax
gonna
bill?
destroy-
Sure.
In a place like this where real estate prices are skyrocketing, that's going to destroy us.
Well, that's why they're doing it, because home prices are skyrocketing in all the red states, and they want to
Discourage.
punish the
Discourage
states.
them.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly why they're doing it. Yeah.
So, so I don't know how you deal with the problem of migration across states based on different. I don't know how you solve that problem.
But do you think that if people were to, if you're a conservative or a conservative company in one of these blue states, is it better to stay and fight, or is it better to just get out now?
Oh, get out!
Get out.
Yeah.
Get out. There's no incentive for you to stay.
Yeah, if they're. I mean, the left notoriously hates businesses anyway, and claims to put the interests of the lower classes first. And we see what happens in urban Chicago. If that's what it looks like when leftists put you first, imagine what they would do to companies that they don't put first, corporations. So no, they need to get out. Of course they need to get out. They need to leave.
If you want your employees to live free, you have to go to a red state. Like I saw Joe Biden said, I will let Americans get back to living normal life when we reach 98% vaccination rate. And I'm thinking, we've been here in Arizona living normal for over a year now. Nothing feels, I mean, there's some people that wear masks, but other than that, nothing feels out of the ordinary here. And I think that's the case for
nothing at
red
all.
states. Nothing at all.
Nothing at
Florida,
all.
Tennessee, Texas, all these red states, everything is normal.
And we
We're living normal.
magically had no one die of the flu
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
So
So
Things are great.
I think if
Things are
you
great.
want your employees to be free, if you want your company to promote freedom and heartland America, you have to get out of blue states.
Yeah.
You just have to. And it's in a way it's punishing them. I mean, that takes away part of their tax base and it hurts those states.
Oh yeah,
And that's
It's
important,
kind of-
I think.
Well, when you were talking, exactly. When you were talking about New York, talking about raising taxes, they're on the wrong side of the Laffer curve right now.
Yeah.
The more they raise, the more they're going to lose. Like it, and it will become. I don't know if it'll become geometrically worse, but it will become much, much, much worse.
Oh, I think so.
So it's interesting times. And okay, so that's kind of a downer there a little bit, talking about the state of the country and how people are literally having to leave their businesses and flee to other parts of the country that are more interested in freedom. But I do want to wrap the week on a positive note. This is a really cool story. Joey, I don't think was the credit James. That wasn't you, was it? I think Caleb Gina found this.
Yeah,
Caleb
did.
Gina
One
found
of our
this.
Simon editors.
He has co-hosted on here a couple times. He found an absolutely fascinating story. The New York Post was covering this. It's about a woman named Coretta James. Coretta James lives in Queens, in New York. Coretta James is a black woman who's 49. And while the left is busy shoving anti-police propaganda down the throats of anyone who will listen, but especially urban populations, Coretta James is out there doing something absolutely amazing. Every week, she buys stacks of Hallmark note cards, takes them home, and handwrites notes for policemen in New York City. And her goal is to have a handwritten note for every single police officer in New York City before all said and done. James said, I started with 112th Precinct in Forest Hills, and that just set the tone. To date, she has written more than 4,000 cards that she's given to officers in all of the city's 77 precincts and some working details at Yankee Stadium. She keeps a list of everyone she has thanked so far. There are 36,000 cops, she says, so I have a lot of writing to do. Wow. In every one, she says, thank you for your service in the NYPD. It takes a special person to take a job that every time you put on your uniform, you put your life at risk. Grateful for your service. Each envelope is adorned with an American flag sticker. James says, I once went into a precinct and gave a card to a police officer, and he said, in my 26 years on the job, this is my first thank you card I've ever gotten. James said, it made me realize what I was doing was very much needed. I see them as human beings because I want them to see me as a human being. Some people think cops crawl out from under a rock, then go home and crawl back under a rock. but they're somebody's son, somebody's daughter, or mother or father. This is personal, intimate, an expression of kindness to another human being, retired NYPD Transit Chief Joe Fox told the Post. And then just one more quote. James said, I'm pulling from the Post here. James is aware that to some, her simple act of kindness toward cops can be seen as polarizing. James says, though, I'm prepared for blowback, but it's not about me. It's about the police, and I want them to know they're appreciated. So we deal with a lot of grim stories around here. The country is in rough shape right now. But I saw that story and got excited about it. I was trying to figure out what to talk about on the show today, and that one just stuck out to me. This is a woman who has rejected everything that the left has told her about police. And she's thinking for herself. She's thinking on her own. And the sad thing, guys, is that in so doing, she actually becomes an enemy of the left.
Yeah.
Because she's daring to stand up to that narrative. And I wonder, do you guys... The Post is the one that ran this. The Post tends to be more conservative. I don't see her getting love from much of anybody else other than conservative publications.
No way.
I mean, do you see any leftist publications embracing her and talking about how she's thinking on her own and being original?
No, they want more. They want more. They want everyone to be divided into their little boxes, and everyone has their own like little thing, and they can go and shout about it on prime time.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that we're having right now, is that there's no gray area anymore. There's no room for discussion anymore. There's no room for dissent or for someone to kind of go against the grain with these things. So I think the story, it's like whether or not you agree with her doing this, you have to respect the fact that there are people willing to buck the trend in a sense, in whatever regard that is.
Yeah, I mean, establishment media is, I'd say, just as responsible for the left and BLM of fueling racial division in the country, especially over the last year with some of the riots and protests we saw. But I think what she's doing is incredible. And I love her simple quote of, I treat them as humans because I hope they'll treat me that way. I mean, that's it. I mean, that is such a simple rule to live by for anyone who's dealing with the police. You treat everyone as your fellow human being, and they will do the same for you. And I just think that is such an incredible message of her, but that is never a message that establishment media would ever get close to touching.
It's not. And what I absolutely love about her is she's not falling for the party line.
No.
She won't take the bait. And what's sad is that the left will absolutely hate her. And what's even worse is that they'll hate her for doing something that is so good for her and her community.
Yeah.
She's had the guts to take a stand, and they will do whatever they can to delegitimize her and destroy her. But she knows. I mean, that's what she said at the end. She said, "I'm prepared for the blowback. It's not about me. It's about the police, and I want them to know they're appreciated." And Coretta James, we want you to know we appreciate you here at the Western Journal. That's going to be it for us for this week, folks. Thank you for hanging out with us. We are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. After you subscribe, click that little bell that pops up. That'll make sure you get notified when we go live. Also, if you feel led to support us in a more direct way, we would be thrilled and we'd be honored to have you do that. Many people have done that, and it makes an enormous difference helping fund the journalism that we do here. It's not cheap, it is not easy, and we don't have any big backers. We're a small company. If you feel led to support us in a more direct way, you can go to westernjournal.com/join. That's westernjournal.com/join. We're about finished here for the day, and I'm going to say bye for Joey and for the folks in the booth. But before we wrap, a quick word from Cameron Arcand.
All right, so in about an hour and a half from now at 4 p.m. Pacific time, I will be releasing the first episode of the Young Not Stupid interview series powered by the Western Journal. And I'm going to be talking to a bunch of different guests about wide variety of issues about things happening in our country. And today, my first guest is Tamika Hamilton. She is an Air Force Reserve Logistics Sergeant, a mother of 5, and running for Congress in California's 3rd Congressional District. It's going to be a very competitive race in 2022, and you're going to want to hear what she has to say. So on that note, I'm going to pass it back to Josh now.
Excellent. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again Monday. Have a wonderful, safe weekend.